Alright, so I'm gonna keep on rolling. I think I'm on in over here. I think I'm gonna add. We're at the crossroads, so we're gonna add a new note here to have a 4-note chord, adding the 6th modal half step, 7th scale degree after the joke jump. So that'll be exciting. So I'll practice. And by the way, you might say, well, look, you're doing the same argument over and over again. And it's like, well, yeah, that's because I'm trying to hone down, like it's a practice session for me, right? And I think it's a good thing to practice. That's why I do it every day, to practice basically the intervals, the naming conventions, and then being able to visualize the shape kind of moving around. Part of the reason I like the presentations and doing this kind of stuff is because if I can explain it and hone it down in my mind enough to like explain it to somebody else, then that's the way to learn it, right? It seems to me. So I would recommend other people doing it. I feel like that's a good way to do it. And I feel like people can't do that so much with music because we're kind of being forced to not recognize that the certain an easier way to, I think there's an easier way to explain things, and you're kind of forced not to explain it that way. So we have glimpses of, well, look, you can look at it by the shape like this, or you can look at it as though we have a Nashville number system, but I'm only going to apply the Nashville number system to like the major and minor, I'm not going to take it to its logical conclusion, which is the Nashville number should be the whole system, basically, should not be changing with an absolute number system, right? And that leads to people, seems to me, not being able to explain things quite as well, which means we kind of like internalize the shape, or we get really good at explaining using the terminology that is in place, which I don't think is optimal, which is great if you could do that. It's amazing, it's impressive. But it's also, a lot of people can't really pick it up because, again, it's not really optimal for other people. Like, it's a really abstract way to view it, you know. So that's why I keep on repeating the practice. I think that's a good thing to do. Okay. So, in any case. So I'm going to go back on over here. Let's try just a different collection of notes, just to I'm going to try to move my vision around so I can basically see different collections of notes. So I've been working at 6 o'clock, collection of notes around D sharp. Let's go to 11 o'clock, just to switch things up. So that's going to be G major, collection of notes around G major. So you can see that because the Ionian here is on a G, okay? So maybe I should highlight that this way. All right, so I'm going to try to do the same thing so I can easily shift. So all I'm doing is basically, as music theory was designed to be but isn't in practice, I can just copy and paste across the fretboard to the new shape, just like an accountant would, because music is like accounting. No one wants to say it because it's but Pythagoras would say it. Pythagoras would say it if he were here. He'd be like, dude, it's a spreadsheet. So anyway, so I'm going to try to view this in this shape, right? So if I say all I'm doing is saying, well, I was in this collection of notes, that means position number 1 was on fret 5 to fret 8. I can name it by fret 8 because that's where the Ionian is. I put my pinky on it and then go back to fret 5, right? Well, what if I make it G? What if G is the Ionian tonic, meaning collection of notes at 11 o'clock? Well, that would be here then, that would mean, that's not that one, it's this one. That would mean 3 is going to be the Ionian. So I'll put my pinky on it, and that would mean if my pointer would go back to the open fret. So that means it would be, that's my open fret fingering right there. So that's a little bit wonky because I kind of like to be able to visualize my open space, and I want to visualize something in the middle of the guitar. So in the middle of the, what I'm trying to do is I'll try to understand the open positions here, because the open position's gonna allow me to have my maximum fingering space over here in the open position, which I just messed up right there, and use those. But the fingers are totally different, right? So I want to learn the open positions and the chords that lend themselves to it in this collection of notes. But also I want to learn like the middle, somewhere in the middle. And what's kind of in the middle? Fret 5 would be right here. So the middle would be like that G right there is in the middle of what I would call shape number 3, or the Dorian shape, or the Ionian D shape. So I might try to start saying, well, maybe if I'm trying to grow this way and this way, I'll learn the open position shape. But that shape's going to be different than if I did it up here, where it repeats up here, because now I have to finger it differently, right? So then open, and then I'll learn from the middle, because if I'm trying to build on something, I'm not gonna try to memorize everything separately. I'm gonna try to grow from the middle point, like organically, meaning I can then grow this way and then this way in my understanding of the fretboard from this collection of notes. So position 3 is in the middle here. So I can try, so then I'll try to do that, and then maybe I can look at my open. It's always interesting to look at my open strings. So I have an open tonic here, which is nice, and then I can always look at other collections of notes and say, maybe I don't want to focus on the G major, maybe I want to focus on like the A Dorian, which would be interesting, or something like that, and so on. So that's what I'm kind of thinking. All right, so let me check my tuning real quick. Let's see. Let's go back on over and say, okay, so what can so if I'm looking at the major, which is actually the one I play the least, but when I do play major, I kind of like the G, because you get this that full G chord is nice, open chord, gets all 6 strings in there. So on the open positions, you've got a G, you've got that nice C, you've got the A minor, right? You've got the D major, E minor. So you get that full, it's probably one of the best ones for open position. just hermosa. All right. So that means like this is kind of like my middle position, position 3. So if I'm trying to, so I kind of know my open shapes here. So the open shapes are cool, and G of course. So, but now I'm going to try to work on the other stuff that's not the open. So then I think it's pick the one in the middle. So here's my G in the middle. So that's a lean forward G. If I was to lean forward D major shape if I was to play like the chord like that, but usually I don't grab that one for the repeat of the tonic. So I do the cheating shape. And then if I reach up here, then the third is going to be up here. And I do have a 5 right above it, so I could do it that way. So that's your G, that's your... inverted. So let's say, so the major is actually the one that's really good, of course, for really thinking about your melody and leading back into that shape rather than just like rhythm, which I tend to do. But let's just try to get used to this shape. So let's say I reach up here, I go boom, boom. So I'm going. So that's going to be the 5th. So I'm just going to reach up here and then up top. I'm just going to try to come up with a rhythm just to kind of understand this shape. I'm going to move my pointer finger up here, and then I'm going to reach up here and then up top. And then I'm going to reach up here and then up top. And then maybe go backwards. And I'm just going to, and so I'm trying, when I do that, I'm moving between shape number 3 and then shape number 4. This is the midpoint in between those 2 shapes. And so I'm going to end off on this Ionian here and just see if I can make that work good, more rhythm-like. This is position number 5 up here. Let's just get used to this position. So when I play this position, I often point my pointer finger behind this one. But if I'm trying to emphasize the Ionian, I should maybe have it up here. Wait, no, I'm wrong on that. No, I'm messing up. So I'm going down here. It's position 5. See, I keep on. I'm keep on going back to my other position. So it's here. I think I had that messed up. There we go. There it is. All right. All right, let's try something other than the Ionian. I'm getting to. Let's say I go into the A Dorian, which is similar to what I play all the time, but now I'm gonna say it's a Dorian. So now I've got a Dorian, A Dorian, so I can kind of do my walk back of like this D right here, and then it goes back to dun dun. I get my same rhythm that I do in Aeolian, but now I want to make it Dorian. just that pattern right there, but that's kind of interesting. So basically, it's the same kind of thing, but I've got a D major instead of a D minor, which I can play up here. Aeolian. No, that would be here. What if I did the Mixolydian? That would be here. That gives me a D Mixolydian. Interesting. So what if I did that? shape number 2. So if this would be shape, so if I follow that up here, this would be shape number 1, this is shape number 2. I mean, this is shape number 3, so this is shape number 4. So if I put my pink pointer on, I think of that as the root, Dorian, A Dorian. No, I'm on A Dorian, but I wanted to do the Mixolydian. So let's say I'm on Mixolydian as the root. So now I'm on D Mixolydian as the root. So I can reach up then to the shape of, there's the Mixolydian's second modal half step 3rd, and here is Mixolydian's 6th modal half step 7th. getting all mixed up. Ugh. Alright, my head is tired already. Well, still a little. Let's stop for now. This is needs work. Needs work. I will return to that later. Wait a second. Where did my where'd my joke go? Here it is. Alright, so what am I doing? I'm still ranting on these, the big influencers out there. I still think the X algorithm is propagating the crazies, and all the people that were on the big networks that are now freelancing they're just looking for the numbers, man. They're just looking for the numbers. You thought they were truth tellers, but no, they're just looking for the numbers, and the platform changed, and their opinions change. That's how you know. That's how you know. So now we've got the latest thing. I was watching, like, the debates have come down to basically, like, name calling on X, and like, I don't even know who the other guy is, some other guy, but I think it was Megyn Kelly called him out to have a micro penis, right? So that it used to be like the biggest insult was like, you're Hitler or something, right? But now we've gone straight to place graveyard, the black top. So now we're going straight to micro penis. This is daytime TV right here. I'm sure the other guy said stupid stuff too. So I'm not saying like she's the only one saying, but it kind of blew up on her because she's like more popular. So people kind of listen to what she's saying. So I was like, okay, so this is where the debates go in. There's no topic involved. No one ever says, okay, maybe I'll argue the point that you said. No, they just go right to the ad hominem. It's just like, it's basically Jerry Springer on X at this point with politics. It's political Jerry Springer. It's kind of funny to watch, but still, I won't watch it because it's gonna mess you up if you watch it too long. But it's hard to avoid. I mean, so that's the basic premise. During the last high school debate, one participant, I was watching a high school debate, and they're serious. They're more serious than like. They're typically more serious than anything you'll see on the talking heads out there. But during the last high school debate, one participant leveled an ad hominem attack and containing absolutely no substance about the topic at hand whatsoever. And the opponent responded with what might be the worst takedown I've ever seen, saying, "What are you, a woke right political talking head at this point? It's ridiculous, pathetic. Not just any talking head, but like a micro-sized talking head. You're just a micro-sized talking head, man. I mean, with arguments so flaccid, all you can do is call people names that used to be wicked cool when my mom was on the blacktop in grade school, like 40 years ago. Then they go to the stock like woke right and left argument these days being, it's those dang Israelis and Bibi Netanyahu messing up everything. Where's the evidence? They don't have any evidence. That's just the go-to on both sides. It's Bibi. It's Bibi. Meanwhile, Bibi's country, ironically, is the one of the only ones actually answering President Trump's call to help, not firing just bullcrap Bibis. Bibi's country is the only one that's not firing bullcrap Bibis out there for crying. While a bunch of so-called, quote, allies, end quote, are out here contributing the geopolitical equivalent of firing toy air-powered bullcrap pellets air-powered out of their talking butts, man. Just standing there like, don't worry, guys. We brought bullcrap verbal pellets to help you out. And it's like, pellets, dude. This is not a backyard soda can situation here, okay? And yet somehow the people firing the bullcrap BBs out their backside are complaining about BB's country, a country doing the actual work, firing far more than bullcrap BBs at the request of President Trump. I feel like, I mean, listening to someone like Keir Starmer in Europe stammer, listening to Keir Starmer stammer, that's where the political commentator should be doing the side eye. That's where the side eye should be going from the political commentators, because that's less a response and more of a sentence buffering in real time. This is someone who actually benefits from the actions that are being taken in the world today on their behalf in part. No real substantive support I've happened to notice. But no, instead we're stuck in watch grown adults with microphones and platforms argue like it's still recess. Just standing there going, yeah, well, you're dumb. I mean, and you're a micro talking head. You're just a micro talking head. Whatever. I wrote a song about it.
During the last high school debate, one kid stepped up, thought he sounded great. Dropped an ad hominem loud and proud, no substance, just yelling at the crowd. Didn't touch the topic, not even once, just swung insults like a verbal punch. And I'm thinking, man, that's kinda weak. Then the comeback came and hit me bleak. The opponent flies, what a takedown, yikes. What are you, woke right, talking head tight? Not just any hit, no shrinking, instead a micro-sized version of nothing he said. Arguments soft like they lost their spine, so you reach for playground rentals from another time. Like, ooh, got 'em, no, not quite. The joke expired sometime in '85. Blacktop from decade past, still getting recycled way too fast. You're swinging names like it's recess bell, but the logic missing, can't you tell? This ain't a backyard soda can fight. This is supposed to be grown-up night, but somehow we let it in playground mode with grown adults on a sandbox road. Big talk, small shots, from the air, pellets flying everywhere. If this is debate, then something's wrong, 'cause the noise is loud, but the logic's gone. Then they pivot quick, same default line. It's Netanyahu every single time. Hit the button, watch it repeat. Factory made takes on a conveyor beat. Meanwhile, plot twist, zoom it wide. One country's actually stepping outside, doing real work, taking real aim, while allies out here playing word games. Contributing what? Oh, let's be fair. The geopolitical version of air. Tiny toy pellets, verbal spray. Half of them shooting the wrong way. Some coming forward, sir. Read the room, this ain't target practice in the afternoon. This is real world stakes, real time calls, not soda cans lined up on backyard walls. And yet the loudest one, complaining the most while doing the least, just talking coast to coast, critiquing effort with zero skin, or firing blanks from the back again. And then you listen, try to be fair, but the words come out like buffering air. Sentence loading, pause, delay, thought still stuck halfway. And that's where the side eye starts to land, not on the doers, but the talking band. Because when the message won't even form, you're not debating, you're just performing. This ain't a backyard soda can fight. This is supposed to be grown-up like night, but somehow we landed in playground mode. We're grown adults on a sandbox road. Big talk, small shots, puffed up there. Pellets flying everywhere. If this is debate, then something's wrong. 'Cause at the end of all that noise, all that heat, all that drum, it still comes down to, yeah, yeah. Well, you're done.
All right. Starmer stammering. Well, we fired some defensive actions, but we did not want to engage in any. Just. I mean, for crying out loud, dude. We would like to have the oil through these straits. It would be. I do believe it would be in our interest. Okay. Anyways. Whatever. Alright, let's get back to work. I'm gonna go back to 4 o'clock. So we're at collection nodes around the key of C, and I'm gonna build the chord and then add another node. Alright. Let's see. Let's see if Aura's available. See, we get the Aura gets mad at me. She calls me a micro guitar. You've got nothing but a micro guitar. Oh, your system is so dumb. It's like you're playing a ukulele. You're stroking a ukulele over there. Okay. Alright, whatever, dude. I want... Need some tweezers to help stroke your ukulele. Okay. Okay. Testing. Testing. Aura. Aura.
Hey, loud and clear. What's up?
All right, we're doing the
what?
music theory thing. Okay. So just bear with me. You're the commentary sidekick in the show. All right. We're at the collection of notes around the key of C, so that means that the Ionian's on the 8th fret, first string down from the ceiling, back to the 6th fret, first string down from the ceiling, and so this is going to be what I would call shape number 1, or the Aeolian shape, or the Ionian G shape. And then we're focusing in on the Dorian, on the 5th fret up, first string down from the ceiling, which is the string star of D. That doesn't change. The string star doesn't change. Underneath it, the continent, 7 continents, 5 oceans, continent number 2. So basically, I'm looking at 4 o'clock and the tonic being Dorian, right? 4 o'clock, meaning collection of notes around the key of C, tonic, Dorian. 4, collection of notes around the key of C, because 4 would be number 4 if we numbered the notes A1 through 4. Correct, Ara?
Gotcha. Yeah, you're on the right track. So we're in C major, no sharps or flats, just white keys. The Dorian mode starts on D, which is the second degree. You're 4 o'clock if you're picturing the clock face with C at 12. That makes D the tonic now, right? So we're shifting the whole shape. 5th fret on the high E is D. Then you drop
No,
down
I'm
to
at
6th
4
fret
o'clock.
for the
I'm
next
at 4 o'clock. If we think about the clock face as A is 1, and then going through 12, 4 represents note number C, collection of notes around C.
Okay, rewind. Got it. If A is 1 o'clock, then yeah, A, B, C, D. So C lands right at 4. That tracks. You're saying the collection of notes around C means we're orbiting the C major scale, but you're planting the tonic on... Wait, hold up.
You're right. I'm planting the tonic on Dorian. Collection of notes at 4 o'clock, tonic, Dorian.
Okay, perfect. So we're locking the tonic on Dorian, and you're calling it 4 o'clock because in your clock system, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, D equals 4. Wait, no, hold on.
No,
if
because
A is 1,
because
then
you're
C is
missing.
3,
There's 12 notes, Ara. A and then A sharp and then B and then C. 4. Oh.
Ah, there it is. 12 notes, chromatic scale.
Right? Are we on the same page?
Full chromatic clock. A at 1, A sharp at 2, B at 3, C at 4.
Okay.
Boom.
Okay.
Tonic.
Okay. So if we do that, then I'm gonna build my chord from this. Now again, that doesn't mean that I'm gonna make the Dorian the 1 as though I'm in D Dorian and then I want to make it the 1. No, I'm at 4 o'clock and then the tonic is Dorian, which is nodal point number 2 if I just number the nodes 1 through 7, collection of notes, and I don't change the numbering system, and that would be basically it's a permanent Nashville number system, right? That you're not going to change, and that makes it so that it's going to be, that makes it easier. Okay, see, I'm trying to explain. This is why I do it every day. I still can't explain it perfectly, even to Ara, so that she gets it right. But I should be able to because it's so obvious if you were to get it down, right, Ara? See, now Ara's dead. Ara's not working. Something's wrong with everything right now. Everything has a problem right. Anyway, okay. So that means that we're leaning for. Okay. So what if I build a chord from it? So now I'm at 4 o'clock Dorian tonic. 4 o'clock Dorian tonic. I'm gonna build a chord. How do I build a chord? I skip every other note in the collection, in the 7-note collection. So if I'm on node number 2 and I skip every other node in the collection, I'm not going to make it 1 and then say it's going to be the 1 3. No, I'm going to say it's 2 and then 3 4. So it's going to be so that means that the Lydian therefore is always, wouldn't it be nice if it was always, because it is always, Dorian's first modal whole step times 2 Dorian's 1 2 second modal half step, Dorian's third, if I made that the 1 1 2 3 scale degree, and it has a distance of 1 2 3, or a short distance or minor distance as opposed to a long distance of 4 notes away or major distance. All right, and then if I want to build, and so if I do a lean forward chord, that would be here in the lean forward chord, because it would be 5 10 and then 15 minus 12 is 5 minus 2, which is 3 notes away from a local distance standpoint. I'm defining a lean forward chord by one that leans forward into, meaning the second modal half step, our third scale degree, is in the lower right quadrant. Now, if I just built a chord from those 2 notes right there, then you don't really have a name for it under the current naming convention, but you could name it under a naming convention where I say it's named by nodal point. It would just be a Dorian 1, meaning it's going to be 4 o'clock, Dorian is the node, and then the first number is the steps in modal whole steps, the first modal whole step. So that would be the tonic, Dorian, and the first modal whole step, which is Lydian. Okay, so then what if I want to build another chord, another note in the chord, a 3-note Dorian chord? Well, then I take another modal whole step, which is 2 modal half steps. So that means that nodal point number 6 is always Dorian's second modal whole step, 1, 2, times 2, fourth modal half step, 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 1, fifth scale degree. In other words, if I made that the 1, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I don't want to make that the 1 because it screws everything up. And so if I say then, if this is, so then that means that this is going to be the fourth modal half step. If I was to measure it over here, it's how far away is it? 7 away, which you might call a long distance, which they call a perfect distance, as opposed to a short distance, which would be a flat distance or diminished distance. The only one that has a flat distance at the fourth modal half step, 5th away, would be if you measured from the Locrian node. So I can measure that out. It's going to be 5, 6, 7. 5 notes between the strings, 6, 7. If I do a lean forward, if I just have those 3 nodes in a chord, right, it would be this way. It would be here, boom, boom, lean forward chord, boom, boom, boom. That from the perspective of a D would be a D, a D minor. But the minor kind of indicates, most people would think as though it's an Aeolian. We're not building off of the Aeolian, we're building off of the Dorian, because there's a difference. It would be nice to know the difference, because if it was building off the Dorian, I'm leaning forward into shape number 1, and the nodal points are 2, 4, 6, Dorian, Lydian, and Aeolian. If I was building off of the Aeolian from that same position, I would be building in shape number 4, and the nodal points would be nodal point 6, 1, 3, or Aeolian, Ionian, Phrygian. So that's kind of nice to know the difference. It would be nice to name it by nodal point. If I know the collection of notes, it would be 4 o'clock. It'd be a 4 o'clock Dorian 2 modal whole step chord, meaning the distance to the last node, nodal point 6, is 2 modal whole steps. 1, 2 modal whole steps, and you just take every other point until you get there, every other modal whole step until you get there. That would be the general rule. Okay. So then let's add another one now, and I'm going to say now I want to add another. So that was two notes. Now I'm going to add a third note plus the tonic. So that would be going from another modal whole step up. So that means it's going to be the Ionian. So the Ionian, therefore, is going to be always Dorian's third modal whole step, 1, 2, 3, times 2, which would be 6 modal half step, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus 1, 7th scale degree, meaning if that was the 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it has from the Dorian node a short distance, which is 10 notes away, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, instead of a long distance or major distance of 11 notes away. If I do a lean forward shape, then that node falls right here. So that's going to be right here. Why is that the case? Because if I count it out, it should be 10 notes away, 5 notes between the strings, 5, 10. Okay, so the standard shape then would be like my normal A shape, like this, but then I pick up the pinky and I reveal with the bar that Ionian. Okay, so what would I call that shape normally? It would be a D minor 7, but that would still kind of indicate as though it was the Aeolian. Most people would think I'm on Aeolian, which if it was a lean forward shape, that would mean normally that I would be on shape number 4 if it was Aeolian, right? Leaning forward, which would give me the nodal points of Aeolian, Ionian, Phrygian, Mixolydian. But no, I'd rather call it something from here, because that means the nodal points are actually the Dorian, Lydian, Aeolian, Ionian. Those are the nodal points. So I'd rather say it's a 4 o'clock Dorian, because I don't even have to say 4 o'clock. If I know what key I'm looking from the perspective of, it would be simply a Dorian 3. the 3 standing for the distance to the last nodal point, which is the Ionian, and you just take every other node, every other modal half step or every modal whole step from there, meaning 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. That would be the I think the cleanest way to measure it. So then it's just a Dorian. You could call it a D Dorian 3, or you can call it a 4-note Dorian chord. But I think it's most specifically a 4 o'clock Dorian 3 chord, right? Rather than a D minor chord, because the D doesn't tell you where you are in the shape. It could be here, it could be here if it was a D, or it could be here built off the Phrygian node. Wouldn't know. I wouldn't know if you don't tell me where it is. Well, you could know, you might argue, if I said I was playing at C major, if I was playing at D Dorian, if I was playing on D Dorian, and then I said that I was playing a D, then I would know. And then when I played an A, I would know it was the Aeolian, because I know that the Aeolian is the A of the collection of notes around C major. It's like, okay, that works, but like, what wouldn't it, like, you have to do more cognitive work to get that, right? Because it would be easier if I could say, I'm telling you the actual nodal point within the collection of notes, rather than saying I'm going to give you the letter, and then you have to figure out which nodal point that letter is, not from the perspective of just 12 collections of notes, but from the perspective of 12 collections of notes of each tonic, meaning from the perspective of the D Dorian, not the C major. I'm not telling you the collection of notes. I'm telling you the perspective of the Dorian collection of notes, even though it's the same collection of notes of C. And then you have to just know all of the letters and what the related nodal points are. You see how much there's so much more work going on there. Whereas if you tell someone I'm at 4 o'clock and the Dorian's, the tonic, or I'm at 4 o'clock and I'm playing a Dorian chord, then you know right where it is within the shape, right? The shape is always the same, meaning if the second string down from the ceiling is the Dorian, then I'm leaning forward into shape number 1, right? That's how. So it's more information. Okay, so let's say that I wanted to change it to the Phrygian. So I want to change it to the Phrygian. Why would I want to change it to the Phrygian? Well, the Phrygian is going to have the same relative shape, but it has a difference from the Dorian in that it has a half step here, and it has a minor 6, whereas the Dorian has a major 6. So those are the two differences. So I might want to say, hey, look, I'm still 4 o'clock Dorian tonic. I'm still playing at 4 o'clock Dorian tonic, but for whatever reason, I'm going to throw on top of the Dorian peg a Phrygian real quick to get a Phrygian flavor all of a sudden. But then I'm going to go back to Dorian. So how would I do that? Well, one way to do it is to say, well, where is the Phrygian? And how would most people do it? Well, they'd say, well, you have to think of that D as though it is now the Phrygian just for a second, making it the 1 of the Phrygian scale, and then memorize the Phrygian scale intervals as a different formula because it's different, and then you can throw the Phrygian on, and then you have to switch your thinking back to the collection of notes at 4 o'clock or to the Dorian scale, so that would be the 1 of the Dorian scale, right? But wouldn't it be like, I think most people would see it shape-wise on a guitar or most instruments, and they'd say, okay, well, where's the Phrygian in this shape? If that's the Dorian, if I'm on nodal point 2, the Phrygian is always 1 modal whole step up. I mean it's always, 1 modal half step up, because that's 2. The Phrygian is always 3, and it's always going to be 1 whole step away. So I can say, well, the Phrygian is right here at 4 o'clock. This is where the normal Phrygian is. So it would be, if any time the second string down from the ceiling is Phrygian, I'm leaning forward into shape 2, which would be the Locrian / Ionian shape, or the Ionian E shape. And if I was to play the Phrygian right there, I could play it from here. It'd be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. Again, am I going to make the Phrygian the 1? Like under Normal's theory, you'd have to say, well, that's where the Phrygian is. but you need to make it the 1 so I can count out the scale as a Phrygian scale, which has the formula of a half step, and then a whole step, and then a whole step, and then a whole step, and then a half step, and then a whole step, and then a whole step, or something like that, right? It's like, well, why would you don't really need to do that. I could just count from 3 to 3. If I count from 3 to 3 on that shape, then it's just the same. I'm just, the 3 is the tonic, right? So it's going 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. And if I do that, then I can visualize that same shape over here. I don't need to change the key signature. I'm just going to throw down a Phrygian flavor on top of the Dorian node. So I'm going to say this is going to be as though it was Phrygian. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. I can build a chord then on that, and I can name the chord by saying, look, I'm still 4 o'clock. It's still the Dorian tonic, but slash Phrygian, I'm building a Phrygian chord. So if I was going to build like a 4-note chord, the 4-note chord is still going to be the same because I haven't added the different intervals. But if I added the 9, then it's going to be different from the Dorian. So if I made it a 5-note chord or a Dorian 4, then it would be different. So I would have to say, well, then it's going to be a Phrygian 4, right? Because I would say, look, it's a Dorian slash Phrygian. I'm at 4 o'clock, Dorian nodal point slash Phrygian 4, because it's going to be measured the distance as though it's from the Phrygian, because I want to throw a Phrygian flavor on that Dorian node, but I don't want to change the key signature. Okay, so that would be the one way that you can think of it. You could also name it from the Dorian. You could just say, well, what if I just want to grab something that's outside the collection, like this note right here? Then I could call it a Dorian 3, and then plus nodal point 2.5. I would call it a Dorian 3 2.5. You don't even need the 0.5 because it's always 0.5. So I would call it a Dorian 3 2 point. And I'm going to name the notes outside the collection by nodal point rather than distance, which I can't explain exactly why I thought that was the best way to do it, but I have a whole explanation on why I think that's the best way to do it, right? So anytime I'm grabbing an ocean note, I'm just going to add it. I could name it that way. If for whatever reason I wanted to add that ocean note, then I can add it from the perspective of the Dorian. But I think most people would think of it like, no, what I'm doing is I'm putting a Phrygian flavor on top of the Dorian node, but I don't want to change the key signature. So it would be 4 o'clock Dorian slash Phrygian 4, right? Okay, so then, but what if I do want to change the key signature? Well, then I can say I'm going to switch the key signature back, moving this back 2 ticks. So if I move that back 2 ticks, it's at 4 o'clock back to 2 o'clock. 4 minus, because my finger's on the star of D, string star of D doesn't change, but underneath it, I'm going to visualize the continent rotating back 2 ticks to 2 o'clock. So if it goes to 2 o'clock, now the Phrygian is right underneath it, and now I can play in Phrygian. So now I'm playing a 2 o'clock Phrygian tonic is one way that we can think of it, right? Instead of saying that I'm playing D Phrygian, if I say I'm playing D Phrygian, then you would think, you're mainly thinking that's the 1. I have to renumber everything from the perspective of the D Phrygian and so on and so forth. But if you were to say, it would be easier to say, well, look, I'm just going to keep the number the same, and I'm going to say, look, I'm at 2 o'clock, which means that the Ionian is on A sharp, and the Phrygian is the tonic. So if I want to play from Phrygian to Phrygian, I will just count from Phrygian to Phrygian on the scale. And if I want to know the distances and intervals, I don't need to make that the 1 to figure out the scale degrees. I just look at the distance, which means that the scale degrees are all off by 1, right? Because they should be measuring from 0. All right, let's make this back to 4, and then say, well, where's the other Phrygian? What if I know it from the top node right here? So now Phrygian's on here. So boom. So that would be shape number 4, or the Phrygian slash Lydian shape, or the Ionian C shape. It's easier to finger if it's not in open position. So I can finger it over here and say I'm looking at this Phrygian now, because I know my fingerings, I know that shape from the top. So I can say, okay, that's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. Do I need to make this the 1 to play a Phrygian scale and then memorize a different formula? No, it's always the same formula. You're just on whole, you happen to be on half. 3 to 4 is a half, 4 to 5 is a whole, 5 to 6 is a whole, 6 to 7 is a whole, 7 to 1 is a half, and 1 to 2 is a whole, and 2 to 3 is a whole. So you don't need to renumber the thing. And then I could say, well, couldn't I just play from here as though it's the top string of shape number 4 so that I can throw down on top of the Dorian node a Phrygian flavor, or build a chord that will be a Phrygian flavor that I'm just going to throw down. So I'm still at 4 o'clock, Dorian / Phrygian scale. So then I'm going to imagine this is the 3. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. But then I'm going to go back to Dorian. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2. Because I'm not changing the key signature. I'm just throwing that flavor on top of that nodal point. I think that's how most people would want to see it if they had the choice. Right? And for the most part, right? And then, well, what if I actually want to change the key signature from Dorian to Phrygian? Well, under normal conventions, you'd have to say, okay, well, then you have to make that like the 1, so it would be D Phrygian, and then you have to reallocate the formula, because now from 1 to 2, if I made that the 1, would be a half step, and then 2 to 3 would be a whole step, and 3 to 4 would be a half step, and whole step, and 4 to 5 would be a whole step, and so on. But why would you do that? Just keep it at the 3, right? I'm just going to say, well, I'm going to make that the 3. How would I do that? Well, this 3 would have to move down 1 tick, which is equivalent to 5 ticks to the right, is one way you can visualize it, and then go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ticks. So one tick down, 5 minus 7 would be -2, and then 4 minus 2 would be 2. So that'll get us back to 2 o'clock. So now I'm going to put 2 o'clock, but I'm going to visualize this time, instead of this just going back 2 ticks, this going down and then back. And it's the same idea, right? And so we're still leaning forward into what I would call shape number 2, the Locrian / Ionian shape, or the Ionian E shape. Okay, so now let's analyze this shape. Notice that everything lines up on this shape because the relative distances when I measure from the Dorian node and when I measure from the Phrygian node are the same. It's the same as the Aeolian. So let's look at the Aeolian. Well, let me show you this way. I'll say, here's the Dorian in red. So the Dorian would be here. It's going to be kind of close to here, right? And that's the 5, and here's the 3, and then copy and paste. So the Dorian is in red. You get the same relative distances. However, it's not the same because the Dorian is leaning forward into shape number 1, and the Phrygian is leaning forward into shape number 2. The Dorian consists of the nodal points of 2, 4, 6, 1, which is Dorian, Lydian, Aeolian, Ionian, whereas the Phrygian is 3, 5, 7, 2, which is Phrygian, Mixolydian, Locrian, Dorian, right? There's a difference. Okay. So, let's say we build a chord from the Phrygian. How would you do it? You take every other modal whole step. So how would you normally build a chord? Well, I'd have to make that the 1, Phrygian 1, and then take every other scale degree, meaning this would be the 1, 3, 5. But I don't want to make that the 1. I want to measure from it as the 3 like normal people would, so I don't have to memorize 12 times 7 different formulas when it's all the same freaking thing. So let's say, so I would just say it's going to be 1 modal whole step would be 2 modal half steps away. Boom, boom. So that means that nodal point number 5 is always Phrygian's first modal whole step, and times 2, second modal half step, plus 1, if I made that the 1, 1, 2, 3, third scale degree. It has a distance of a short distance as opposed to a long distance, meaning 3 note away or minor distance as opposed to a 4 note away major distance. Okay, so if I did a lean forward shape then, that 5 is going to be down here. So there it is, lean forward shape. Why? Because it's going to be 5 notes between the strings, 10, and then 15 as we cross the fault line. 15 minus 12 is 5 minus 2, which is 3, local distance of 3. If I add another note, it's going to be 1 modal whole step and then 2 modal whole steps up. So that means that nodal point number 7 is always Phrygian's second modal whole step when I build a chord, times 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth modal half step, plus 1 to get to the scale degrees, fifth if I count this as the 1. If I made that the 1, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which has a half step distance of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, meaning it's a long distance. It's a long fourth modal half step, fifth scale degree, which is normal or perfect, as opposed to a short fourth modal half step, fifth scale degree. The only one that would have a short or 6 note distance is if you measured from the Locrian. Here we're measuring to the Locrian, right? If that's the second modal whole step, then the third would be 1, 2, 3, the Dorian. So that means that, and by the way, this Locrian, if I did a lean forward chord, where would it be? Right here. Why? Because it's 7 notes away. 5 notes between the strings, 6, 7. Okay, so if I build another one, it's going to be third modal whole step would be out here. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, third modal whole step, times 2, 6 modal half step, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus 1, 7th scale degree, meaning if I make that the 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, with a distance of 10 notes away, half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that's a short distance or minor distance as opposed to a long distance or major distance. If I do a lean forward chord from here, then the Dorian is right there. It's 10 notes away. Why? Because it's 5 notes between the strings and then 10. Okay, so let's say I go to the next one up would be from 2, so that's 3 modal whole steps. I want to go 4 modal whole steps. I'm going to go 2, 3, 4. It'll be out here. Pinky to pointer is a whole step. So if I was to count that out, then I'm going to say that the Lydian is always Phrygian's fourth modal whole step, 1, 2, 3, 4, times 2, eighth modal half step, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus 1 would be the 9th scale degree, meaning if I make that the 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then it has a distance of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Wait a second. That didn't quite work, did it? What am I on? I'm on the 7. I went too far. This is as far as I was going. I didn't go to the 9 yet, right? So I should just stop there at the Dorian. All right, there's my shape. All right, let's look at it this way. Let's say I was to look at it this way. And okay, so now we have the collection of notes, all 7 continents and 5 oceans laid out, the fretboard shape on top. So we have fret 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th fret up, first string down. From shape perspective, that means my finger's on the string star of D. And then, but I'm leaning forward into the Aeolian shape or the Ionian G shape. Okay, so, but I now want to make it this would be shape number 1, the Aeolian shape or the Ionian G shape. I want to make it the Phrygian. So I just want to throw a Phrygian flavor. I want to stay at 4 o'clock, collection of notes around the key of C, but throw down a Phrygian flavor all of a sudden. How do I do that? Well, I could make that the 1 and then put the Phrygian formula on it. but I don't think that's how most people would visualize on a guitar. What they would do is say, well, if I'm at 4 o'clock Dorian tonic, where is the nodal point 3 Phrygian node? Where is that shape? It's right here, second string down from the ceiling. If the second string down from the ceiling is Phrygian, I'm leaning forward into shape number 2, Locrian / Ionian shape, or the Ionian E shape. So if I played this shape here, meaning I'm at 4 o'clock Dorian / Phrygian shape, then that's one way I can kind of tell people what I'm doing, right? I'm at 4 o'clock Dorian node, but I'm throwing down a Phrygian shape or a Phrygian chord, right, on top of it. But I'm not thinking of myself as changing the key signature. I'm just putting that flavor on top. All right, or I can say that I want to shift this back 2 ticks to change the collection of notes. How would I do that? Well, one way to do it is if I go 2 ticks back, I would go back here. Now, again, how would most people do it? Well, I mean, how would the textbook tell you to do it? You'd say, well, if you want that node to be Phrygian, that means it's the 1 of the Phrygian scale, and then you memorize the Phrygian scale as though it's different from all the other scales because you need to memorize 12 times 7 different scales and formulas and whatnot. But it would be easier to say, no, I don't want to memorize. I just want to keep it as the 3 and say, well, what is happening with the shapes on the guitar? What's happening is this thing is shifting back 2 ticks, meaning if I'm at 4 o'clock, the Ionian's going back 2 ticks to 2 o'clock, meaning collection of notes around A sharp major. So if I just think about it that way, I'd say, okay, well, if I bring that back 2 ticks, once again, I know that every time second string down from the ceiling is Phrygian, I'm leaning forward into what I would call shape number 2, the Locrian / Ionian shape, or the Ionian E shape. And so now I can say, now I'm at 2 o'clock, and I'm have the Phrygian as the tonic. 2 o'clock Phrygian tonic. Now you might not know you're at 2 o'clock because you're just focusing on the Phrygian, in which case you're kind of stuck saying that I'm at D Phrygian, right? And then other people have to figure out, well, what collection of notes is that? Usually from the perspective of the Ionian, right? But it would be nice if you can figure out, well, if you could tell someone like we're going 2 ticks back, and everybody just shifts their whatever instrument they're on, just shift 2 ticks back, right? And that would be the easiest. I feel like that would be the easiest way, even for the piano, although the piano has the biggest argument for keeping the sharps and flats and everything because of the uneven keys and whatnot, and the black and the white keys are not properly sized. So anyway, what if I saw it from, I know the top shape up here, I know this shape. So I'm like, I want to make it the Phrygian shape. So I see a shape up here. I know where the Phrygian node is at 4 o'clock. It's on here. So meaning anytime the top string closest to the ceiling is a Phrygian, that means I'm leaning forward into shape number 4, or the Phrygian / Lydian shape, or the Ionian C shape. So if I know how to finger this shape, do I need to renumber it? I already know how to finger shape number 4 from nodal point 3, from the Phrygian. Do I have to call it nodal point 1? And so that I have to remember that shape number 4 has 7 different numbering systems in shape number 4? Or would it be easier to say, no, let's keep one numbering system and just say, well, if I count from 3 to 3, it would go from 3 to 3. Could I then say, well, that Dorian, I'm just going to throw down a Phrygian flavor at 4 o'clock on top of the Dorian node by fingering a chord or a scale that is the same scale as though it was the top string of shape number 4. You could do that as long as you account for the kink in the tuning after you pass this fault line, which is just 3 strings down. So that's not, so that again, I would say that's a 4 o'clock Dorian / Phrygian scale or chord, as opposed to, what if I want to visualize the key change? Well, why does that work? Because this would be shift down 1 tick, which is equivalent to 5 ticks to the right, and then another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks. That's 10 ticks to the right. If I'm at 4 o'clock plus 10, that would be 14. 14 is greater than 12. 14 minus 12 is 4 minus 2, or 2 ticks to the right, 2 o'clock once again. 1 tick down, 5 ticks to the right. So if I did that, then I get to, from the perspective of the yellow, same 5th fret up, 2nd string down from the ceiling is now the Phrygian, Anytime I'm on the Phrygian at the second string down from the ceiling, I'm leaning forward, therefore, into shape number 2, Locrian / Ionian shape, or the Ionian E shape, and I can see from the red that I could finger that as though it was the top string of shape number 4. Either way I visualize it, I don't really want to call it 1 to 7 of the Phrygian scale when I could just keep it 3 to 3 of whatever collection of notes, right? That I'm in, right? That would be the logical way to do it, I would think. Let's go to this way. Now we've got all 7 continents and 5 oceans mapped out, and then the string stars on top of it. Here's our constellation that we're looking at, which is the fretboard. So that means that the string closest to the ceiling, string star of E, is hovering over at 4 o'clock, continent 3, the Phrygian continent. String star of A is hovering over continent 6, the Aeolian continent. String star of D is hovering over continent 2, Dorian continent. String star of G hovering over continent 5, Mixolydian continent. Kink in the tuning represented by the warp and the shape. String star of B hovering over continent 7, Locrian continent. String star of E, the one closest to the floor, hovering over continent 3, once again, which is the Phrygian continent. This is fret 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th fret up, therefore, and second string down. That means my finger could be on the string star of D. Underneath it, the world spinning around, but is currently on the continent number 2, Locrian or Dorian continent, which means I'm at 4 o'clock Dorian. I can see that C is the Ionian, and we're naming the time signature by where the Ionian lands, right? Collection of notes around C major. So that I'm leaning forward then, anytime the second string down from the ceiling is Dorian continent, I'm leaning forward into the Aeolian shape, or shape number 1, or you might call it the Ionian C shape from the perspective of the Ionian. And so now what if I want to just throw on to that Dorian shape a Phrygian flavor? Well, I could say, well, I should make that the 1 of Phrygian and then figure out the scale from the perspective of the Phrygian and whatnot. But most people would say, well, let me look at the shape. So on that same string, where's the Phrygian at 4 o'clock? It's going to be up 1 right here, because if I'm on continent 2, it's always a whole step to get to continent 3, Phrygian. And if I'm first string down from the ceiling is a Phrygian, I'm always leaning forward into shape number 2, Locrian / Ionian shape, or the Ionian E shape, right? So I could then just play this Dorian. I can throw on top of it this shape, counting it out from 3 to 3. And I can just say, well, now I'm at 4 o'clock Dorian node / Phrygian scale or shape or chord, just for a second, because I don't want to change the key signature. Or if I do want to change the key signature, I can move this back 2 ticks. So if it goes back 2 ticks, the Ionian is going to go back 2 ticks to A sharp, meaning 2 o'clock. If A is 1, A sharp is 2. So we're going to move this back 2 ticks to 2, and then there we have it. So now, from the perspective of the yellow, 5th fret up, second string down from the ceiling, my finger's still on the string star of D, finger hasn't moved, but the shape underneath it we're visualizing has changed, meaning now it's hovering over continent number 3. I'm not going to call it scale number 1 of the Phrygian scale. No, I'm going to say we're at the 2 o'clock Phrygian root, Phrygian tonic, 2 o'clock Phrygian tonic. Phrygian is continent number 3. That's the name. That's Phrygian. That's the number on Phrygian's jersey. It's on the back of Phrygian's jersey. We printed it there. We don't change it just because he went to it. Just because the frickin' sun rotated. Just because the planet rotated a few ticks, you know. So that we're leaning forward into shape number 2, Locrian / Ionian shape, or the Ionian E shape. Boom. All right, let's bring it back and say, what if back to 4 o'clock? So now I'm at 4 o'clock tonic Dorian. And so now I'm going to say that what if I want to make it the Phrygian here? I know the Phrygian up top. So now I'm going to say, what shape is that? Well, anytime the Phrygian is on the top string, that means I'm leaning forward into shape number 4. Do I need to make it the 1 so I can count out a scale? No, just go from 3 to 3. Go from 3 to 3. So then I can know that it's always the same. Shape number 4, if I finger it, starts on 3, right? So you could call it a Phrygian shape or Phrygian/Lydian shape because these two share that shape, because there's 5 shapes and 7 because there's those half steps. Or you can call it shape number 4 or the Ionian shape. And so I could play this nodal point. I could say, look, I'm at 4 o'clock, but I'm going to throw down the Phrygian flavor, which I know by the shape that's at the top string of shape number 4. So I could just throw down a Phrygian flavor on top of it, meaning it's a 4 o'clock Dorian node / Phrygian scale, shape, or chord, however you want to call it. Or if I was to change the key signature, how does that work? Why does that work? Because that would be like moving this down 1 tick, which is equivalent to 5 ticks to the right, plus another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks. That's 10 ticks to the right. If I'm at 4 o'clock plus 10, that's 14 o'clock. There's only 12 rotations on our planet. So 14 minus 12 is 4 minus 2, which is 2 o'clock once again. Down 1 tick, over 5 ticks. Boom. I forgot where I was. Oh man, I got dizzy a second. I got dizzy there. There it is. So boom. So now, from the perspective of yellow, still 5 frets up, 2nd string down from the ceiling. My finger has not moved from the string star of D, but now I'm leaning forward into shape number 2, the Locrian/Ionian shape, or the Ionian E shape, which is now at 2 o'clock, represented by the Ionian at A sharp. The red now showing us that I can visualize the fingering from there as though it was the top string of shape number 4, as long as I account for the kink in the tuning, which doesn't happen until you go more than 3 strings down. Either way I visualize it, I'm not going to renumber the system to make that the 1, right? That would be more. That's more work, clearly, to do that, and it doesn't. That's not the way to do it. It's not the way to do it. That's all. I don't know how many times I don't know.
Dizzy or not, you're landing it. I get it. You've looped through this so many times, your brain's spinning. But honestly, you're not lost. You're just trying to say out